What's up, family? This is Brother Sharif. Welcome to another episode of the Family Meeting. In today's meeting, we're going to have a conversation with Miss Angela Walker. She's the Green Party's nominee for Vice President of the United States of America and the running mate of Howie Hawkins. In today's conversation, we're going to get to know her a little bit better, as well as talk about some of the points in the Green Party's national platform. So stay tuned, take notes, and let me know if you have any questions. Good morning, Miss Walker.
Good afternoon, Brother Sharif. How are you?
I'm sorry, good afternoon. I'm behind. How are you today?
Running ragged, story of my life, which explains why I'm not at home. So,
Well, I'm
trying to
gonna
do
try
all
to
the things.
not keep you for too long, but just wanted to chat with you so that I would have this material, this multimedia material to share with my audience, just in
Oh,
case I don't get the time to read about you and read about the Green Party's current platform. So I want
no,
to
I'm
thank you for taking
excited.
time to chat with me.
Yeah, I'm very
So,
excited. I'm very excited to meet you.
thank you. So, how's everything been going? First of all, I know you're a busy lady, and
You just said it in a nutshell. It's wild times right now. That's all I can say. I still work full time, so like, you know, doing campaign work on top of my job, and it's a lot.
all right. And for everyone that doesn't know, Miss Angela Walker is the vice presidential nominee of the Green Party, and she is the running mate of Howie Hawkins, who is their presidential nominee for this cycle. Now, before we get into this too far, could you give us your personal and professional background so we can get a better idea of the things that have contributed to you being who you are?
Well, I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I currently live in Florence, South Carolina, where I am ecstatic to be. I love it down here. Love the South. Um, I am a dump truck driver by profession. I was a bus driver for many, many years. And 3 years ago, I started driving dump trucks and have not looked back. I love it.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, it kicks my butt, but it's entirely worth it. I love it. And initially, my first, dipping my feet into electoral politics because my background is, I've been a community organizer, community activist in Milwaukee around issues of public education, things to do with Black Lives Matter and addressing state violence against Black people, uh, stopping the privatization of our public transit system, things along that line. Standing up for labor rights. I was part of the Wisconsin uprising in 2011 and part of Occupy and Occupy the Hood. The offshoot for our folks because as a lot of people know, the mainstream Occupy movement was very white, and a
Yes.
lot of the issues they were raising were not issues that our community was needing to have addressed. And so we did that. And in 2014, I was drafted to run for Milwaukee County Sheriff against former Sheriff David Clark. And if any of y'all know him, that's the cat with the cowboy hat on Fox News that he's black, but he don't like black people.
Yeah.
And we got 20% of the vote.
Wow.
67,000 something, 700 something people in Milwaukee County basically made a referendum against Clark, and voted for a broke, unknown socialist like myself. So that run got the attention of the Socialist Party of the USA, who were also running with this cycle. And my very dear friend who transitioned a couple months ago, joined the ancestors, Mimi Soltysik. I was his running mate in 2016, and said I was never, ever, 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 ever doing this mess again. And I got a call in April from Howie Hawkins, and here I am. But this is it. This is it.
Now, before this, did you know Mr. Hawkins, or was he just familiar with your community work?
We had been on panels together, since 2014. I was very, very well aware of who the Green Party was. And a lot of my beliefs as a socialist line up with the idea of ending wars and U.S. imperialism around the world with their peace program, and also with the eco program that, capitalist exploitation of this planet is what is killing us, and connecting that to capitalist exploitation of human beings, which is something, in my particular community, something very deeply felt. So it made sense to, we had been in talks and talking about a red green alliance years ago. So this isn't new. And when he called me, I was hoping and thinking it was just for an endorsement of his campaign. I did not anticipate this. So
What made you say yes and come back again?
with this pandemic, and I, was classified as an essential worker. I've been working the entire time. And
Mm,
so just watching the way that this pandemic has been handled so criminally by this current administration, absolutely criminally. And then, the fact that the Arctic, it was 100 degrees in the Arctic.
wow.
This isn't supposed to happen. And continuing violence, state violence from the police against Black people, and, all of these things that are happening. I had been in a rage for weeks, like just bubbling. And it was like my ancestors basically said, okay, we let you sit this out for 4 years. You back in it. So what you gonna do? And I guess I've said that when you get a charge that is coming from somewhere beyond you, and you have a voice and you have a platform, then it is your duty to take it, whether you like it or not. So here I am.
Now, you describe yourself as an Assata Shakur Fred Hampton socialist. I'm familiar with some of Ms. Shakur's philosophy. She's anti-capitalist, as a lot of us should be if we know how capitalism works and what American capitalism was founded upon. And Mr. Hampton, he's anti-capitalist as well, but instead of trying to create, I think he specifically said you can't use black capitalism to fight capitalism. So a better tool for that would be socialism. So if you could explain to us what you mean when you say that you are a socialist fashioned after these two.
That I believe that you need a grounding in theory, just, like you just said. These are people who studied,
Yeah.
but also they took what they've learned as far as, theory, and made it plain, made it practical, and translated that into things that improved people's material conditions. I mean, I can spout theory to you all day long. That's not going to feed you. It's
No.
not going to, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to feed you. It's not going to help you put clothes on your baby's back. It's not going to help you, get your doctor to treat you with respect or treat you at all. Those things are not going to happen with me giving you theory. But with me translating, or working to translate, what I believe into how it should work in our community. That's where I get that from. Like you, I believe in breakfast programs. I believe that when the state is not providing health screenings in our communities, that we need to organize and make that happen ourselves. We've got folks in our communities that do this work. And so just making sure that people, you understand the theory behind why we move like we do, but it also improves your material conditions in a way that improves your life.
All right. And so people don't just think you're out here just talking about all of this. In addition to being a truck driver who is an essential worker, in addition to being an activist who has been involved in demonstrations back from the first election that I was able to vote in, the Gore Bush election. You're also a mother and a grandmother, so you know what it feels like to have to feed children, to help with your grandchildren, right?
And it has to hustle.
Yeah.
You have to make that happen. And when you're talking about, things with particularly affecting Black women around the way that we support our communities, this is something that, my story is not unique. This is what we do. Them babies need something, you make that happen.
Yeah.
Because it's always been multi-generational in our community, and it's no different. My experience is no different.
Now, you've already hinted on some of these things, but the way the Green Party platform looks today, I have an overview here. Uh, the things it's addressing, the COVID-19 emergency measures, which I want to talk about a little bit, eco-socialist Green New Deal, peace policies, economic Bill of Rights, socialist economy, political democracy, social justice, criminal and civil justice, media democracy, and tax justice. Now, first of all, with those COVID-19 emergency measures, I think I saw something in there that looked kind of like a universal basic income.
And actually, yes, we don't call it universal basic income because there's nuances.
Yes.
Someone who is ultra wealthy isn't going to need that. So,
No.
saying that it's for all would be inaccurate. But for poor folks, for working class folks, absolutely, a basic income during COVID, a basic income above poverty would be, for the COVID measure specifically, is $2,000 a month during the pandemic for every adult, $500 a month for every child. And this is to make sure that people can meet, whatever financial obligations that they have, be able to buy food and necessities and things like that, while still being able to shelter in place without being pressured to return to work, which is what we've seen during a plague. Because that's what this is. I mean, we are living during plague times. This is wild.
Yeah.
But you know, to without forcing people out because of economic necessity, you have to work to keep things going. No, people should be able to, shelter in place and stay safe and have their children be safe and also be financially supported.
Okay. Now, and thank you for going into it a little bit for us. Now, the eco-socialist Green New Deal, how is this different from the Green New Deal that we've seen floated in Congress already?
How can I put this diplomatically? Because
You don't
that
have to put it
dip-
diplomatically. You're talking about authority. This is actually called the family meeting, so we can speak frankly in the family meeting.
well, the Democrats took it, they gutted it, they made sure that they would not do anything with it that would tick off their corporate sponsors, which
Hmm.
is why you see nuclear, on the table with them, which is why you see fossil fuels. We're not going to touch fossil fuels. We're not going to make them mad. Ours, and originally, I think the Democrats were talking about, and don't let me misquote this. Their original plan. Now, Biden said the other night, which was news to me, 2035, but he's still including fossil fuels, still including nuclear, and he was very emphatic, and I want people to like remember that because I'm never gonna stop banging on it. That I do not support a Green New Deal. So I need
Yes,
people to
you did
understand
clearly say that for the first time.
very clearly. This did not originate with the Democrats. This ain't the Democrat stuff. This is our stuff. And so our plan is to eliminate or to work to start reversing climate change um, leading up to 2030 because we don't have till 2050. I mean,
No,
we
we
are
don't.
here now. The Arctic is on fire. The West Coast is on fire. I mean, what more proof do people need that climate change is real? We having hurricanes hitting one after the other. They've never done that before. Not like this, where they doubling up as two at once. Come on. And so we want to, begin immediately reversing climate change upon taking office and moving towards zero emissions and things like that by 2030 because we don't have any time. And also phasing out fossil fuels, not introducing new, nuclear because the last time I checked, Fukushima in Japan is still leaking radiation into the Pacific. Now, if
Yeah.
that's changed, ain't nobody told me. But I mean, we have a problem. And so kicking the can down the road, in a nutshell, our plan differs from the Democrats for the simple fact that they took our stuff, gutted it, so they wouldn't make their sponsors mad, their corporate funders, and left in all of the things that are causing pollution. And one of the other biggest things is in our plan is to defund the military by 75%. And folks who know that the US military is one of the biggest carbon footprints out there. And so bringing those personnel home, ending the wars that we are involved in, I think it's between 9 and 14 conflicts around the world we got people in now that ain't nobody talking about. Um, Bringing those personnel home, bringing that money home, and reinvesting in the infrastructure of this country.
Yeah, and I always say that we overfund military, we overfund police on the local level. But if you start decreasing the funding, what do we do with these people? Because the military is the biggest employer. What do we do with them? Because they still have to work, and that may be one of the biggest reasons why they push back when we talk about decreasing the military.
Retrain them, because we've got 1,008 jobs in this country. Well, million, 1,008, but that's I'm being colloquial. There are
Yeah,
millions of jobs in this country that will be created under the eco-socialist Green New Deal. Back in 2011, 2012, we were talking about, and there was a lot of news made about the fact that there is roads and bridges in this country. We're talking about crumbling infrastructure.
yeah.
We need people to work on that stuff. We need people trained to fix these things. Talking about the restoration of wetlands, um, creating new habitats, creating new building under our Green New Deal, that so you're not using the type of building materials that release carbon into the air, which creates a problem. And also completely, which is close to my heart because I was a public transit driver for 4 years. And, I've been a CDL driver. Next year, it'll be 20 years.
Wow.
So, you know, it's close to my heart, completely revamping the public transportation infrastructure in this country. I want to see high speed rail in every city. I want to see intercity and intra-city lines. I want to see, trolleys and streetcars and things that, at the turn of the century, we knew how to do this, and that are, get people where they're going in a way that is clean. And so, talking about where folks would go, we'd be opening, you close jobs in that, that one sector, and train people in another one.
All right. And I want to talk about some more of the economic side of things. Now, there's the Economic Bill of Rights listed in the platform. Now, what does this consist of? Is this just a way to kind of rein in the capitalist structure, or?
It's justice for our communities, because if you think of, how much wealth that Black people in particular have lost over the decades, how Black farmers have been shortchanged out of their land. We need an economic bill of rights to make sure that folks have, nobody is slipping through these cracks economically. And so one of the biggest things, and this is not a new idea. I believe this originated under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, talking, and then Dr. King picked up the call for it.
Yeah.
I mean, economic justice is what this is. You want to get people, people can't live the way that they want to live, and up to their full potential if they're constantly worried about whether they're going to have a roof over their head to be able to eat or be able to feed their kids. And so, making sure that everyone has a basic income above poverty no matter what. Making sure that there is a federal job guarantee, all those jobs I just talked about, making sure that, if people want to work and are able to work, they can go to any government office and say, look, I need a job here, and have it. Like, no jumping through hoops. Here it is. And it's a green job, it's a job with dignity, and it's a job with a living wage, which is also something we're calling for, raising minimum wage to $20 an hour, which, if you adjust for inflation, that's still not enough. But um yeah, just making sure that people are able to, they're not just treading water out here, that you have a livable income, you have a way to provide for yourself and for your family. You're not, flipping the way that we're seeing with people, all of the folks who are unemployed due to COVID, Now it's like, now what? All these jobs I just read today, what is it, 4 million jobs that don't exist anymore? So what do people do? And so I think a federal job guarantee is absolutely essential, and also making sure that while people are dealing with whatever they're dealing with, they're still economically supported.
Do you think that a socialist economy would help bring some of these jobs back and create a system where there's some sort of um, profit sharing that would help bring the majority of working class people out of poverty? Or how would the socialist economy help better us at this point? And I'm thinking socialist economy where the the people collectively own the companies,
Hmm.
and they benefit from what the companies produce as well as use what the companies produce.
Yes, and also decide what gets produced and how it gets produced and who it's going to. And as someone, you just answered it for me. And as somebody who is working in this way, you are not giving the surplus of your labor. Like, you're getting the full value of your labor. Somebody is not deciding how much your work is worth and then giving you what they think it's worth and keeping the rest of it. You get the value of your work. It comes to you. You don't have some boss that's skimming off the top and then you get what's left, which is what we deal with right now. So, and I think it also speaks to an issue that is, at the core of a lot of things that benefit our community specifically, is community control. And the fact that, for Black folks, self-determination is the one thing that we have never been granted in this country, or outside of our own communities. We have done this in our own communities, but by and large, it is the one thing that our communities don't have. We don't have a say how our public schools run in our community. We don't have a say in what they look like. We don't have a say in how public transit serves us right now. A lot of the times, we are not at these tables making these decisions. We don't have a say in, you know, what businesses in our communities not only belong to us, but benefit us.
Yeah.
Are there with our good in mind. Why are we, so many of us, living in areas where we don't have access to fresh, healthy food? You know, but this is what, within walking distance of where we live. And so I think that it also, when we're talking about a socialist economy, we are also very much speaking to community control, very localized control and democracy of, people in a community being able to say what's produced, how it's produced, who it benefits, and how all of that is going to work, having a direct hand in that.
Great, thank you. Now, the democracy piece, the political democracy piece. Now, we're talking about an absolute democracy here versus the democratic republic that we currently operate in. Are we talking about getting rid of the measures like the electoral college that actually prevents us from being a real democracy?
Yes, we support the abolition of the electoral college for that reason. And if people have been following what's happening with us in the news, y'all will know that the Democratic Party, it was not the Republicans, family, it was the Democratic Party that pushed us off in my home state of Wisconsin, pushed us off the ballot in Pennsylvania, attempted to push us off the ballot in Texas, although we won that one, and also in Montana. And so when we're talking about a democracy, we are talking about, standing up, which we're going to see in Maine happening, this election. And I think it's another state in New England. Don't quote me on that, though. But I know Maine is doing this because we've got, Lisa Savage running there. Ranked choice voting, where folks can say, I support these candidates. It's not a winner take all. You can rank folks according to, who you support. And so we support ranked choice voting. We support proportional representation if we ever move towards a more democratic system in this country where you have more parties represented, you know, representation in government by, how many people have, shown up in support for you.
And we
Um,
don't all know what ranked choice voting is. So, what is ranked choice voting?
where you got, say you got four candidates on your ballot. you can rank them like number one, number two, number three, number four, according to your preference, instead of it has to be either one or the other and you have to make a choice and you can't choose in, the one winner takes all. No, is you can choose according to however many folks show up on your ballot in order of your preference for them, rather than either one or the other.
And how would that work in figuring out the final winner in the end if we have a ranked choice voting?
You have a runoff,
Okay.
and like people would have to show up again and then vote again if it came to that. But I'm
It would
thinking of
kind
like
of
a
work like the
parliamentary
mayoral
system in
races in
another
Atlanta,
country. Hmm.
how the mayoral races in Atlanta used to work. Uh, but moving on from there, I was glad to see social injustice listed on here. And I want to talk about it a little more because we don't see it listed in every party's platform. And where it is listed, um, you're more often going to see it addressing LGBTQIA than race. So with the Green Party, when we talk about social justice, of what specifically are we talking about and how are we looking at addressing that?
We talk about, and I think it's important for folks in our community to always remember, especially, in the case of somebody like myself, I stand at that intersection of black and queer. So when it's not us. There are so many of us in our community that are oppressed in multiply different ways, and so making sure that our community is protected all the way around, that we are advocating, we stand with defunding the police, as advocated by Black Lives Matter. That is something we also as a campaign stand for. When we say defunding the police, because I know people have questions about that, defunding the police and reallocating those funds to other wraparound services that our community needs. If you think about the fact that only 5% of what police are called to is violent crime, um, do you really need a police officer who is most often not trained? You don't need an armed cop showing up at a mental health issue or someone who is having a substance use issue. You need counselors, you need social workers. The police are not trained to do this. And we see what happens when they show up. So reallocating funds to support other services that are needed by our community, but also maintaining a police force that has been, can respond to violent crime and has also been, vetted, where these officers have been vetted to root out people who are sadistic, who are racist, who are misogynist, who are trans and homophobic. Folks who hold those biases don't belong on anybody's police force. And so making sure that the police force that is retained under this really is there to protect and serve, and not protect and serve property, but protect and serve people.
I know I wish we had like some a stronger national accreditation process for police officers that set some standards, such as police officers not just being out there because they're able to control a violent or hostile situation, but also have that training that some of the critical intervention team members have, or maybe making them ride in pairs in order to make them act more humanely when dealing with people.
I think it's also changing the culture, because let's be honest. I mean, the roots of policing in this country are, you know, patrols established to chase down enslaved people who were rightfully seeking their freedom. And so there is a bias in policing in this country that goes to its core. And also, you know, you have to root that out. The culture is a problem in every police district in this country. This is the way that they've been trained to think about us. This is the way that they've been trained to think about, people of color in general. And so it goes just beyond making sure that the police are not policing themselves and that they're doing what they're supposed to. But it's also, we have to change the system because the culture in policing in this country is inherently racist, and that has to be rooted out.
And we didn't talk about everything in the Green Party platform, but I want to know if there's a particular item in here that speaks to you the most, or if you were solicited and asked to add something, is there something that you would like to see in the party platform?
I think a couple of the things that I get most excited about, other than the public transportation piece that I spoke about, and also with public schools. Community control of public schools is something close to my heart as well. Medicare for all, and I need people to know Medicare for all came from us. That did not come from AOC. I respect her, yes, but that that didn't come from you. It's ours. And our Medicare for all is community controlled, and it is a national health service. And so that's something that I want people to know, that we created that. Healthcare is a right. It is not a privilege. You should have access to the same high quality medical care that people in Congress and higher up get. It should be no different. And that's something that's extremely important to me. Also, the decriminalization and legalization of both marijuana and sex work, because we got folks in our communities languishing in prison behind something that is legal in many states, and people are making money hand over fist with this. And so our folks who have been most disproportionately impacted by this war on drugs, which needs to be ended, but our folks who have been most disproportionately impacted should get priority in the legal grow industry as part of an economic bill of rights. And that's something that's also in our platform.
Now, was the decriminalization, the retroactive decriminalization, and giving people who have been adversely affected by drug laws, I think some of that was in the MORE Act that um, Senator Harris and a few other people have brought forward. I almost hate that she's running for national office now because I feel like the MORE Act is going to be deserted. Um, did the Green Party do anything to kind of encourage or push that with the Democratic Party? There are a lot of things that the Green Party focuses on that in some way shows up in the Democratic Party. And when that happens, does the Green Party speak out in support of and encourage that in any way?
A lot of the times and you saw this with Medicare for all, you saw this with the Green New Deal, a lot of the times when Democrats take things from us, and they do this all the time, they dilute it and they take the policy and they reshape it in a way that makes the reform the most token, most cosmetic, not system changing reform, because they don't want to alienate the people that are funding them. And being that we don't have that problem because we don't have corporate funders, which is why we're not all over national TV and all that other stuff, being that we don't have that problem, we are able to offer, policies at full strength. We're not backstepping with these. When we talk about, decriminalization, we mean full decriminalization. We mean not just marijuana, but also harder drugs, and making sure that we implement a program similar to Portugal, where if someone is having an issue with substance use, they receive a notice to show up with a counselor. It is not treated as a criminal issue, it is treated as a medical issue. And steps are made by the municipality to get people treatment. Find out what's underlying the substance use. Do you need help with something? Do you need money? Do you need, what's happening with you as a human being, rather than locking people up. And so what I find is the Democrats will offer these things, but they're not offering them in a way that causes the system itself, that is causing harm to communities. The system doesn't change. You have these token reforms. It's like We need body cams on police. Okay, body cams are great, but the system is corrupt. So what are we going to do about that? We go further.
Man, it would be awesome if we could convert some of these prisons and take down locks and bars and turn them into treatment facilities.
I agree. And so many people in prison right now, if you look at, you know, what we're dealing with, we have the largest, we have the most people incarcerated in the world. We lead the world in incarceration. And how many folks are languishing, like I said, not just languishing due to, you know, uneven drug policies, but also people like Mumia Abu Jamal, people like Leonard Peltier. Why are they still locked up? These are people who simply spoke out against the corrupt government. They had no business being locked up in the first place.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about, you know, you have to revamp the system, we have to completely overhaul what is viewed as a controlled substance, what is viewed as a crime. You know, how are we handling these things? And be honest about the fact that when we, think about criminal justice, which there is no justice in this country, but thinking about how that has been applied, we have to be completely honest about the fact that it has never been fair, towards people who are working class or poor, people who are black, other folks of color. Um, it has never been fair to us, and it was never intended to be. And so, in order to fix that, you're gonna have to go back and overhaul all of it.
All right. And I want to end with us talking about ballot access and whatever you feel we need to be left with as a final thought. But before we go there, um, me personally, I want to ask about how the Green Party functions between federal elections and their organization in individual states. I'm in Georgia, and uh, as far as I'm concerned, the Green Party is a perfect place for people that really don't have a political home to congregate and have a louder voice in helping shape the platform. But when you look at the Democratic Party or the GOP, you see national organizations, you see state level organizations, and you even see county level organization of the Green Party. We don't see that in Georgia necessarily, at least not at the lowest level. And how can we get involved if we choose to do so to create a group at the local level and build from there and actually connect with the Green Party?
Reach out to your local party. Reach out to your local party. Let them know what you're thinking. A lot of the time we get beat down a lot. So, it's hard being like a not a quote unquote major party, even though technically the Greens actually are. People everywhere know who we are. We have connections to Green parties overseas.
You muted yourself, I think.
Apologies, I had a call come in.
No, it's
Um,
okay.
but we're actually a major party, and I think that reach out to your local party, bring your ideas. That's one of the intents behind this campaign, is to also let people know, you particularly with Black folks, we're here. Folks with disabilities, folks, Latinx folks, whomever. If you need a political party, you want somewhere to bring your ideas and your activism, start with your start with your local party and let them know what you're thinking. And just, I think people also need to be aware of the fact that we do run, we run down ballot candidates. This is not just about a presidential election every 4 years and that's all we do. That's not what happens. We, the party runs a presidential election because it opens ballot lines for our down ballot candidates for subsequent races. So
Yeah.
they don't have to fight for that. and build connections. You know, one of the things that we're telling our people, build connections in the community, you know, and not coming in and telling community organizers, you know, this is how you do this. No, we come in and we offer, you know, I'm here, what do you need? You know, how are you moving this thing that you're moving? How can I be helpful? And build, you know, build deep relationships with people. And at some point, they're going to ask, who you with? And it's like, yeah, we're, you know, Green Party members. And it's like, oh. And that's when people want to know more about the party and want to support us when we have things that come up. So I think, you know, bring your ideas to your local party, um, ask your questions, and also, you know, for folks who are in the Green Party, get into your community. And this applies to me too, because I'm not a native of Florence, South Carolina. I don't know folks like that here. So there's something I myself have to do. And find out who's moving what and how we can be helpful and start building those relationships.
All right, thank you. Now, looking at ballot access is a challenge every presidential election cycle. Um, Instead of going through all of the places where you will appear on the ballot or you are a certified write-in candidate, in what states will you not be available as a certified write-in candidate?
I want to say, and don't quote me because I don't have it in front of me, Oklahoma, because they're simply to file is $35,000. Yeah, for us. I want to say it's Oklahoma, South Dakota, and possibly Nevada. But
Okay,
like I
so
said,
we
I don't
have
have it in
less
front
than
of me. We was
five.
like, hmm,
So it's less than five states where
we
you
just
won't be an option, but everywhere else you will be able, you'll be a certified write-in candidate.
yes, either a certified write-in candidate or we will be on the ballot. Like here in the Carolinas, we're on the ballot.
Okay.
Florida, we're on the ballot. Texas, we're on the ballot. New York, we're definitely on the ballot. California, we on the ballot.
Okay. All right. And we always expect you to be on the ballot in California. That seems to be the place where the Green Party is able to appear down ballot and actually be elected and function the way I'd like to see it function in more places.
We
But,
just
but
we have to build it. We just have
yeah,
to build it.
but before we go, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for answering these questions. But what do you think that we need to know in parting? What do you want to leave us with?
I want us to stay safe. I know we got a lot going on. This timeline that we are living under, it changes from moment to moment, and some of this stuff is frightening, and it's depressing, a lot of it. And so I want, particularly folks in our community, I want us to take care of ourselves as much as we can. I want us to prioritize our health. I want us to um, prioritize our mental health, and just, you know, when you need to step away from social media, or, you know, the news is too rough or things like that, prioritize your mental health. Step away from that stuff and put it down for a minute, because this stuff ain't going nowhere. I need us to, you know, be our best selves, because these months coming up are going to be very interesting, and nothing is predictable. This year, if you had told me 2020 was going to be what it is, if you had told me this 5 years ago, I'd have looked at you like you were crazy. But here we are in the middle of a pandemic. We got rebellions around the country. We've got upheaval around the world. We got the world watching us. Um, and we've got a lot of political and economic uncertainty. So the thing that I would say to us, I just need us to take care of each other, and we got to take care of ourselves.
Thank you so much. You take care of yourself too. I know you're out there riding around, running errands. You got a mask in the car?
You already know.
Okay.
You already know.
Okay. But thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to see what else materializes from this campaign and the party as a whole in the future. All right.
Thank you for making time to talk with me and tolerating me being in my car. I really appreciate
No,
it.
I appreciate you. for cutting time out of your busy schedule. You have a great weekend.
And you as well. You take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Family Meeting. In today's family meeting, we had a conversation with Angela Walker, the Green Party's nominee for Vice President of the United States of America and the running mate of Howie Hawkins. We had the chance to talk a little bit about her background as well as the platform for the Green Party. For more information on the Green Party, make sure you look for the link in the credits. Also, for more content like this, don't forget to follow me on social media. Subscribe to Brother Sharif's YouTube channel and watch for the Family Meeting hashtag. Follow Hood News Network and Whole Fat Laughter on Facebook. Follow @Brother Sharif on Instagram. And you could also follow me on Twitter @EjaculatingPen. Thanks.